Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
And welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host this evening, Matt High, joined by Richie Kopech at the bottom and Mr. Chris Felice right there. How we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing well. It's been a minute since I've been here, so finally back on the saddle, and ready to talk some football with you boys.
Nice.
Same. It's haven't recorded in a couple weeks, but yeah, happy to be here. Week's been good. Time to talk about some more fun football nonsense.
Football is never nonsense. We got stuff to say, man.
Whoa.
So we are going to talk about the 2024 rookie prospects. So I don't know how you guys feel, but the wide receiver position is definitely my favorite NFL position. One of the most fun to scout, in my opinion, because you get to kind of see how these guys might really translate. Because the wide receiver is a lot about skill when you get drafted by a team. It's not always just opportunity. You know, we looked at N'Keal Harry, Puka. You have all these guys. You have two different opposite ends of the spectrum. And it's crazy. If you're extremely talented at the collegiate level, usually that translates pretty good. It kind of outweighs whatever situation you get drafted to. So I know this year, if the Patriots take a wide receiver instead of a quarterback, which I don't think they're going to, it was always earlier in the offseason, it was like, all right, well, what if Malik Neighbors goes to the Patriots, and would you take him over Marvin Harrison Jr. because of the situation and whatnot? That kind of goes away for me a little bit more for this specific position. So I guess before we get into all these guys, is there any general thoughts on this wide receiver class for 2024 compared to the past couple of years? Like, would you rank them over the past couple seasons, or is this kind of more the same? What do you guys think?
Personally, I think it's a little better. A little better to moderately better. The reason why I'm gonna say that is I just feel like now, coming from a guy who doesn't watch too much college football, so all my rookie knowledge comes from the lead up to the draft. I know more names on this list than I have in the past leading up to draft day, and usually that tells me that these wider, like the players that we talk about, are obviously good to a certain extent. My personal take is that, like, the tier of this class is a little better if I'm knowing more of these people's names. And I mean, I'm looking at our list here, right? Our little ranking list, and there's like some people here that, like, I can go down to, like, I believe I'm gonna go from here. Yeah, I know pretty much every single person on this list, which is very impressive. Because usually I know about only 3 or 4. Because, like I said, not a super big college football guy. All my research and rookie stuff comes into into the draft day as a good old New York Giants fan, so I can watch how the Giants mess it up. But yeah, no, I'm gonna have to say that they are a tier above those from the past.
I personally don't know how I feel about that topic yet. It's I think for me, landing spot is very much a big deal, and so when it comes to rankings for me, I'm more hesitant to put these players, say, ahead of players already kind of show me, already that have shown me what they can do in the NFL. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely like them better than the class that just happened last year. That's for sure. There's a lot of question marks on that last year's class. I would definitely put at least the top 3 here before anyone in the previous class. And there's a good amount that you can argue with in the 2023 class. I mean, you're really looking back all the way to, I'm sorry, 2022, but you're looking all the way back to, like, Jamar Chase being the only thing that's competitive at this point to, say, a Marvin Harrison Jr. So we'll see but then again, got to see where he lands.
Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of I mean, I think this class is a little bit deeper, in my opinion, than definitely last year and probably the year before. with a couple more guys that could probably make an instant impact. As far as top tier talent, you got a heavy top two in Marvin Harrison Jr., who should be just lights out immediately, and then Malik Neighbors. After that, it gets a little bit, the second tier. I think the second and third tier is where this class is better than the other previous years. So I think there's just more guys that are going to be able to do stuff. But let's dive right in here. We have our first wide receiver, the projected first wide receiver off the board in the NFL draft. And can you guys believe it's only a couple weeks away? We have the draft coming up rapidly. So Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State, 6'4", 205 pounds, did not participate in the combine, did not participate in his pro day. I don't care. He's really good at football. He doesn't need to prove anything because he's already proven it. 2023 stats, pretty impressive. 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3.44 yards per route run, which is excellent, and 31% targets per route run. Like, it's crazy. He was always good. Didn't matter how it was. Is there anything else you guys want to say about Marvin Harrison Jr. other than he's just really freaking good at football? Chris, I saw you raise your hand. Let's go.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be the fun de facto guy over here. I actually have a list from CBS on a mock draft of the NFL teams, round one, just round one. So I'm not gonna probably get every single wide receiver on our list here, but I'll get a couple. I'll get a bunch. And I can tell you exactly where Marvin Harrison Jr. went, and I'll give you a heads up. After that whole spiel you had, he was not the first wide receiver taken off the board, and he was taken at round one, pick 6 to the New York Giants. According to CBS, that's apparently where he's going. I hate that. His career will go into the gutter. I'm sorry for any of you that have him, and we'll pick him up at that point because he's gone. You should actually consider trading that pick if that's the case. But yeah. That's all I'm going to say. I think it's actually fantastic. I don't think he'll make it to the Giants. I actually have a feeling he'll make it to the other spot that he should have gone on this list here, which I will cover soon enough. But yeah, no, as Matt said, there's not really too much discussion around this guy.
What about you, Rich?
I mean, I completely agree. I don't really have any further things to add about Marvin Harrison. He's the de facto number one of the class for a reason. So depends on where he goes. This is really what lot with it's going to be the kind of repetitive thing with all these guys here. But nonetheless, yeah, no, I like his game. Obviously, we've seen he's got the traits. So it's just a matter of where he's going to go and who's throwing him the ball for me.
Yeah, I've seen some people before he's even stepped foot on an NFL roster, on an NFL field, played a single snap. He's ranked top 8 in dynasty wide receivers, which I don't blame people because, I mean, the stats back it up. He should be the next Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I mean, really, Jamar Chase. Like, I wouldn't even compare him to Justin Jefferson because if you guys remember in that class, he was not the first wide receiver off the board.
He was not.
No, it was what was it? Ruggs, I think, to the Raiders for some strange reason. And then Jalen Rager. Whoopsie.
Yikes.
But this is the kind of thing where it's hard to find these guys. And like Jamar Chase is a perfect example of, we knew going in he was going to be great, and he was. So if he follows even remotely close to Jamar Chase's footsteps, then there you go. You have your stud, and let's go. But Malik Neighbors is going to be the guy we are talking about next. LSU wide receiver, 6'1", 200 pounds. Also did not participate in the combine. Doesn't really matter. He's another guy that is really good. Pretty awesome 2023 season. Had 124 targets, over 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3.81 yards per route run, and just under 30% 58% targets per route run. So those are some pretty good stats. And, they had the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and Jaden Daniels on LSU. So he was a really, really good prospect. I really enjoyed watching his tape, and easily, I think, going to be the second wide receiver off the board. I don't see how anyone. I mean, he's someone I kind of see potentially landing up now to the Chargers at pick 5 because they basically just said, "Get out of here, wide receivers. We have Quentin Johnston," which isn't really the best idea in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on Neighbors? You think he gets past pick 5? Because then that would put him on the Giants.
Yeah, that's where I do see it actually happening more so than I guess what Chris just said before. I think that Marvin Harrison gets goes to the Chargers, and then that'll actually just drop Neighbors right into our lap, or the Giants' lap, I should say. And I just think he's too good to pass up. I mean, the big play potential, the run after catch. The guy is a polished receiver. It's like a 1A, 1B situation here to me, really, with him and Marvin Harrison. So I think the Giants see that. They're not going to let him pass by that or pass by them. So yeah, I'd love to see him go to the Giants.
Personally,
That's
right,
fair.
this is how I see it. I see Marvin Harrison probably getting most likely. I feel like it might be 50-50 picked up by the Cardinals at the 104.
I think that's
Perhaps.
like 90% in
Yeah,
my
and then at
opinion.
the
I don't see how
105
they can.
Malik, and then at 105 Malik Neighbors, and then we would get
Yeah,
like
true.
Odunze or something. However, our friends over at CBS have something different in mind. At pick 104, the first wide receiver off the board is Malik Neighbors going to the Cardinals. So there you go. That's where he's at. You can feel free to agree or disagree. It's not me. It's CBS. It's actually, hold on, we got Ryan Wilson from CBS.
Yeah,
Is
he's
who it
just
is. Yeah,
throwing people under the
I
bus.
I am. Listen, man. Listen, man. This is how we do it.
It's
But no,
smoke
like,
season.
yeah,
It's we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, who knows
true.
who's going to be at the 4th pick? The Cardinals could trade away that pick if they don't like.
I
I mean, those
100%.
picks this year are so valuable for teams. So it's going to be
Yeah,
Oh,
I
interesting.
mean, honestly, if you go to NFL's latest mock draft, Lance Zerlein's there. I don't know if you've heard of NFL, but they have they have the trade of the Minnesota Vikings and the Arizona Cardinals happening. So JJ McCarthy would go to the Vikings,
Yeah, I
thus
saw
creating a
that.
whole QB frenzy there at the top.
I actually
Then
have that here. Yeah.
then you'd have what's his face, Marvin Harrison going to the Chargers and then dropping down to the 6th, even though they'd say that the Patriots and the Giants are going to trade there. But either way, I
Yeah,
don't,
I have in
I don't know.
this list here, from CBS, I got JJ McCarthy going to the Vikings after making a mock trade with the LA Chargers, and then the LA Chargers, get ready for this. Quentin Johnson fans rejoice. They draft JC Latham, offensive tackle, with pick 111. So stock is saved, I guess.
Stock is saved.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting how things shake out. But I mean, it wouldn't really be, in my opinion, it's not crazy to have Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison Jr. if a team feels that way, because I mean, like you said, Rich, it's 1A, 1B. It's they should both be studs. We'll see
Yep.
how it goes. But yeah, I mean, Malik Neighbors is just, it's going to be fun watching where he goes. He definitely doesn't make it out of the top 6. I think the best spot for him would be the Chargers, despite what they're kind of doing. But who knows? I don't know what they're doing in LA for that. But so, next guy here we have Rome Odunze out of Washington, 6'3", 212 pounds, pretty fast, 4.45 40 time. Not the fastest, but still pretty good for a wide receiver. 6.88 second 3 cone drill. Another decent 2023 season. We had 114 targets, 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns. Pretty decent. This is a guy where I like this tape for the most part. He did have some struggles that I saw. When pressure at the line. So if they were lining up short, he seemed to have a couple issues getting open up at that point. But he did run pretty decent routes when he was set up that way. Needs a little work, but I mean, any wide receiver needs work on route running. So I don't know how you guys feel about him, but he kind of scares me a little bit. I'm getting kind of Quentin Johnston vibes a little bit. I think he should be better. I'm just nervous because as well as he does, if you get pressured at the line a lot, and that's something a defense can exploit, it's going to be really hard. They have to be real creative. So he has to go to a team that really knows how to scheme their wide receivers. And I know they're out there. I mean, we all know the offensive minds in the NFL right now are pretty creative, but I think it might take a little bit extra for him. Now, I don't know if that's considered a hot take, but again, rookie picks do not always work out. So, am I crazy for thinking that, or what do you guys think about Odunze?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I think it's even more unfortunate that most drafts that I've seen, Odunze goes to the Giants. Like 90%, this is the wide receiver that the Giants take. Most likely off the board, Malik Neighbors goes off. Harrison is off the board, and then this is if the Giants were to draft wide receiver in the drafts that I've seen, this is the guy that they take. Which, I mean, I don't even think they know how to use an offense, rather than wide receivers in general. I'm not going to say I'm going to be too hesitant on him. If that does end up being the landing spot, I am extremely hesitant on his career, and I'm really hoping for some better stuff within that quarterback stuff going on there. Maybe this is a guy that if he does go there, the draft stock falls really bad in Dynasty, and maybe you can pick him up for decent draft capital. I'm not really sure. It's going to be a really interesting debacle. I feel like this would be the first one to where like that landing spot really matters on where you want to go. Like I have a list here that shows him going to the Jets at pick 110, which is fine, except you have to compete with Garrett Wilson. But
and now Mike Williams too.
Oh, true, yeah,
they
and Mike
got him
Williams.
too.
So really, this depends on landing spots for Odunze. In my personal opinion, I'm not gonna say I'm like totally against him at all. He's definitely not the caliber of the last two people that we mentioned. But I'd say I'm like 65%. Like, yeah, take him. I mean, he's got to be at least two. In my opinion, he's gonna be good for your team, as long as he doesn't end up on like the Giants or God forbid a third string. Like on the Jets would be pretty bad too if you're competing with Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams, at least for that first year. But yeah, I digress. What do you think, Richie?
What do I think? I'm currently just trying to take it all in and really figure out, where I think he's going to go. And I mean, there's just a couple different spots. I mean, a lot of what I'm seeing is Jets, and I don't like that. I really don't, I mean, I guess overall, like you were saying, he is going to have a lot of competition there. So I don't know. I mean, it would be nice to see if he goes to a spot that has, a lot of need. Maybe if he gets, pushed down further, on this board. But I don't know. Overall, I agree with what you said. You pretty much hit it nail on the head. It's a tier down from, the first two, but still a good wide receiver, I think, so as opposed to the class. So we'll see.
Yeah, I've seen a lot early in the draft season. I saw a lot to the Bears at pick 9, and I know that was before they traded for Keenan Allen. They have DJ Moore there, so he would be a guy that steps in as a rookie. They lost Darnell Mooney, so that could be a good spot. Year one, probably not. Year two, maybe, because Keenan Allen's getting a little bit older, and year two with Caleb Williams under center. I'm not saying the probability is high that he's going to bust. I just, after the first two, that's where my confidence level is a little bit there's a clear tier break. I mean, everyone will tell you that between the top two and Odunze, but I know there's some people saying that Odunze is going to be better than, or could be better than them. I don't see that, but we'll have to see. It really, like we keep saying, it's going to depend on landing spot. I'm just saying it might be a little bit more pertinent that he gets to a better spot based on what I saw on tape. Some of the other guys, they can go anywhere, and I think I'd be okay with them. I'll bet on talent 9 times out of 10. Moving on here, we have Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, played alongside Malik Neighbors. 6'4", 209 pounds, 4.33 40-yard dash. Another decent 2023 season. A lot of touchdowns. About 1,100 yards receiving, 15 touchdowns. This is where the targets per route run stat, I want to kind of bring that up because it's a lot lower than usually you'd like to see. Usually want to see like 23+% on a low end. Usually we like to see 26 or more. That translates. His is at 17.5. So in the collegiate level, I know he was playing alongside Malik Neighbors. That shouldn't count against you, because when you have an enormous talent like Neighbors playing alongside him, you're not going to get the catches he gets. But I don't know what to think about him. I know Joe is pretty high on Brian Thomas, but what do you guys think about him?
I like him. I mean, size and speed, it's a simple equation. And with the right team, yeah, I think, he's going to definitely be an impact player right out the gate. I'd imagine so, at least, with his kind of skill set. So, raw athlete, I think he's going to be, or has some polishing to do as far as with catching, but nonetheless, I like the player as a whole as well.
What about you,
Yeah,
Chris?
I actually agree. I'm semi high on him as like coming in fourth on our list. This is the type of guy, like, we're getting in the territory of like guys that have like the question mark and they got to go more on feeling. And I feel like this could be somebody who actually like could end up on a decent team. I mean, in our list, he's the fourth rated at the current moment. That seems to be semi consistent with a bunch of the mock drafts I have in front of me as well. I have here involving that trade from before that I had mentioned between the Vikings and the Chargers, that the Chargers would end up with Brian Thomas Jr., which would be very, very good. I feel like for his draft prospect. In that case, sorry, Quentin Johnson fans, your time is done. If it wasn't already. But I feel like this is getting to the point where the situation is getting better for these late round wide receivers. Also, all I'm gonna say is you got 3 LSU guys coming into this. You got Jane Daniels, I believe. Yeah, I am getting that correct. Yeah, Jane Daniels is the quarterback from
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Malik Neighbors, and then you have Brian. The last set of LSU guys coming into the league was really good. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. I know we had more people since then, but like, call me crazy. I feel like I'd be I'm a little high on Brian Thomas Jr. personally. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely going to be a first round NFL wide receiver. I liked how he was using different packages. Sometimes that kind of matters a little bit more. And like you said, if he drops a little bit, he's most likely going to what should be a better team. So that could bode well for him. So that's the kind of thing where sometimes we get a little caught up with, oh, well, this guy got drafted by the Chiefs, so he should be better than this guy who I scouted in a different light than this guy. So like landing spot matters, but for wide receivers specifically, I feel like talent usually outweighs that a little bit. Because if you're good, they're just going to get you the ball. If you're not good, but you're in a good situation, and you don't rise to that occasion, doesn't matter because then you're just going to go somewhere else. But yeah, and we're kind of going off of. I was just looking at Fantasy Pros ADP and kind of just going down the line. So this isn't how I rank them. I don't know how if you guys rank them this way, but this is just kind of what ADP dictates at this point, which is going to completely change in a matter of a few weeks because we're going to get all those landing spots. We're going to know where these guys are. We're going to see where they stat out, and things are going to change. So get ready for your rookie drafts because they get crazy. Next guy up here is Troy Franklin out of Oregon. 6'2", 176 pounds. So he's tallish, but kind of more on the lanky side. 4.41 40 time. 2023 season, another decent one. I mean, there's a reason these guys are up here. About 1,350 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3.5 yards per route run, 26% targets per route run. Just all around decent wide receiver. He's going to be one of these guys at the end of the first round in rookie drafts, most likely, that you're going to have to make a decision on. Is there anything you guys want to say about Troy Franklin? Where do you guys stand on his NFL outlook?
I don't really like him personally. It's probably I'm kind of more avoiding, I think. It's kind of a skinnier frame. He's got a good speed, don't get me wrong, definitely a burner, but nonetheless, I think I like some of the other guys like AD Mitchell or Xavier Worthy better than him per se. But I mean, if he goes in the right situation, maybe. But just those question marks. I think he's going to fall into the second round in the NFL draft. I don't really see him as a first round wide receiver, but could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I don't see him getting drafted in the first round. I'd be willing to bet on that, honestly. I'm not super high on Troy Franklin. I think some of the other people here that we're going to talk about soon enough will definitely see higher placements in the draft, in my personal opinion. I just think there's too much risk in a sense of like there's nothing wrong with him necessarily. It's more or less of just I don't want to say the word average, in that sense, but that's more or less what I'm feeling. I don't get that like feeling of like wow when like I watched his stuff, when I looked into his stats, when I saw prospective draft placements. I'm not really getting that from this guy personally.
Yeah, and I think with him, the good thing for fantasy, at least for a guy like Troy Franklin, is I don't think he would be your wide receiver one on an NFL roster. So for fantasy, some of these guys, like, I mean, you look at Jalen Waddle, he's a wide receiver too, because Tyreek Hill is a wide receiver one. Having a talent like he has, I mean, he like you said, Rich, he's pretty quick. I mean, I saw a couple drops, but I mean, there was also a time where people said Jamar Chase couldn't catch the ball. He was dropping the ball in preseason, and now those people have egg on their face. But it's also about setting expectations. Like, going in, you don't need him to be your wide receiver one on an NFL team, or hopefully not your dynasty team. If he is, enjoy the rebuild because you're going to need it. But he does have some skills that can be used by a creative coach in modern day NFL. Size is a little bit of an issue, being smaller of a smaller frame. I mean, you look at guys like Jordan Addison, he did pretty good last year. You look at Devontae Smith on the Eagles. He did it. So it's becoming a different game right now in the NFL where you have these guys and you're able to do things if you go to the right coach in the right situation and have some special packages made and special plays that you're a part of. And I think he could fit a roster like that. He's probably going to be more of like a boom or bust type guy. But he could also, I mean, he could surprise us. He could be the next Puka Nakua if we really think about it. Like he could have a skill set that just gets utilized. He drops in at the right spot and he's that next guy up and he could be great. I don't necessarily bank on that. I wouldn't put a bet on it, but there are guys like this every single year that have a skill set like this and do exactly that. They surprise us. I think he's going to be good value, at least in your rookie draft, because you're probably getting him the 1-2 turn, most likely, early second. I don't think he's going to drop too far in Superflex. He'll probably be a first round pick in single quarterback dynasty rookie drafts, but we'll see. I know you guys like probably this next guy a little bit better, so let's dive into him. We got Xavier Worthy out of Texas, 5'11", 165 pounds, super quick, 4.2140. If I remember correctly, that was the fastest
It is.
40 time in the combine, right? Yeah, in
Yeah.
combine history. Pretty impressive. That's not nothing.
I actually, I want to say he tied it. I think. I could be wrong.
I know
But I wanna
if
say it
it's
was
not the
tied.
fastest, it's like real close. I
Yeah.
think it might be though. But 2023 season, just under 1,000, just under 900 yards. Sorry, 5 touchdowns. So not great. Didn't have prolific numbers, but he's also a smaller dude. And I know we just said that with Troy Franklin, but he's even smaller. So obviously, elephant in the room is the size. Can that work? We thought Tank Dell was not going to work because he was a lot smaller too. But we saw Tank Dell do things. So what are your thoughts on Xavier Worthy here? Is he worth a flyer? Do you think he should be closer to the top? Or are you kind of fading him because of the concerns on size?
Well, I definitely feel a little more hesitant as far as picking him early due to that size factor. I mean, he is a little shorter. At least the player we just mentioned prior, Troy Franklin, is taller. Xavier is about 5'11", so it's a little concerning as far as that. But I think your hopes here with him is that he ends up going at the end of the first round, which typically you'll end up with a better team. So having a player, I mean, having a quarterback like, say, Josh Allen, or if say picks up Xavier Worthy, or if he can go to all the way to the Chiefs, he can make it there. Then I mean, we've seen Patrick Mahomes and a previous burner have great success. So why can't Andy Reid repeat that again? Especially with a player that is, has just broke the combine record there. So yeah, no, great. I mean, that's my hopes there. That's really what I'd like to see. Other than that, if it doesn't happen that way, I'm probably going to avoid Xavier as well. Yeah.
All I'm gonna say is that the only karmatic correct move for Xavier Worthy is to be on the Dolphins. It is the only correct move that makes sense for the script. Then they can all compete for who is the fastest within their own team.
Right.
NFL script writers, if you are hiring, I'm right here. What do you want to say, Richie?
Could you
I was going to
imagine
say
that?
you are actually correct. I forgot that all the fast players are on Miami, so
They-
he will be going to Miami.
He needs to be there. He needs to be there. It would
Of
feel
course.
so good. Sorry, I'm spitting everywhere.
That would be crazy, man. I mean, then it's just, I mean, Tua doesn't have to do anything. He just throws the ball up. Someone's going to catch it.
Sorry, guys, I'm gonna throw
Doesn't
this
have to be-
ball at this speed, and one of you will
Yeah.
catch up to it. I'm sure.
Yeah. They get to have a game play a game every single snap and be like, all right, I'm throwing this at this point. You guys, who's faster? Go get the ball.
Faster.
We'll
On your
find
marks.
Yeah.
Get set. Go.
That's gonna be the snap count. On your mark, get set, go. It's
It's
just
so
it's
good.
how it's gonna be.
It's so good.
When the
to
NFL
know.
finally turns into flag football, the Miami Dolphins are going to be crazy. They're going to be winning everything because nobody will be ever able to touch them.
So
Oh,
true.
man.
No,
That's
it's
the
so
plan.
true.
They're preparing for the future.
Jeez. Oh, it's gonna be so much fun, man.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. Oh yeah, it'll be a great time. But going back to the unfortunate reality of the situation where we don't get the fun option of Xavier Worthy on the Dolphins, as Richie said, this is most definitely a guy that if he ends up on a good team, um, I feel like most likely this is to the Chiefs or the Bills. I think, especially after the recent Stephon Diggs move, this is definitely though you're eyeing those two teams. Maybe you could like sneak in the Niners, perhaps, maybe, but they I feel like could use more help elsewhere. Um, but unfortunately, I have a feeling that because he's fun and he's awesome and super fast, he's gonna go to day two. He's gonna be like an early day two receiver, and he's gonna up on like the Commanders or God forbid the Patriots. And that I mean, I don't know if I'd be too sad about the Commanders. I'd be a little upset if he ended up on the Patriots. Most of them do not exactly have the best fantasy repertoire within recent years, and they will most likely be getting a new quarterback. Or if you're very unlucky, Mac Jones. So take your pick, really. It's really bad beats all around.
Well, Mac is done. He's now a Jag. So
Oh my God, that's right. I
yeah,
forgot
yeah.
about that.
Breaking
Wow.
news to you right now, man.
Yeah, wow, I
he's
completely forgot about that. Yeah,
they
sorry
have
guys. I'm
Jacoby
misinformation
beef
king
brisket.
over here.
Yeah, we got beef brisket over there now. So I just want to. We got to remember too, though. Belichick is gone. He's no longer there
That's true.
on the Patriots. So this is going to be a completely new Patriots team, new identity, new coach, new everything. So it's hopefully the bad juju, no pun intended, doesn't screw anything up with the Patriots. But sorry, I just
Still on that
can't
team?
juju. Yeah, he is.
He is, right? I mean,
Or
I have him in our
his name is
fantasy
on the
league.
team. Whether
I
he's
should
there,
know.
I don't know. Yeah, there was a time. Sorry, quick tangent. He was my second overall. He was my second round draft pick in our Heroes of Fantasy Football Dynasty League. Way back in 2019, I drafted him as my second round pick, and man, do I feel foolish about that. Luckily, I traded him that season and then won the championship, so I'll take it. Now he's your problem.
I could have
So deal
traded
with
him
it.
to Joe. Joe really wanted him. And I went, man, I don't know. I might eat him. He might. And man, I looked at myself every day in the mirror and I'm like, you stupid idiot. Why didn't you trade him? Like anything would have been better than having him waste space on your bench. And he still is.
We all have those trades. We all have those trades. Don't worry. But yeah, so we'll kind of have to wait and see. Next guy here, let's move right along. Lad McConkey out of Georgia, 6'1", 186 pounds, 4.39 40. He is a yak guy, which as soon as you said the 49ers, I'm thinking that's where he might end up because they're yak guys. Ayuk, Debo, Kittle. That would be a good landing spot, in my opinion, for him, for his skill set. I recently today I watched his tape again just because I had time and I'm like, let's look at a couple more guys and see a little bit more. And I see him kind of shooting up draft boards a little bit as far as ADP, and pretty good. I really enjoyed his tape. He's 186 pounds, but it looks like he plays bigger, which I like. didn't have a whole lot of college production this past year, but when he was on the field, man, he did stuff. He had a 26.3 targets per route run. Like, he was targeted on a heavy percentage. 3.62 yards per route run, 99.2% route participation. So when this dude was on the field, he was getting the ball, which is awesome. And I think in the right situation, going to a team like the 49ers, that would increase his draft stock tremendously, in my opinion. What do you guys think about Mr. Ladd McConkey?
Another
I
player to me. Sorry.
no, you're
Would you
good.
like
Go ahead.
to?
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No. Please, by all means.
So yes, no, just another player to me that I think is going to fall at the end of the first, possibly early second. Just really depends on that kind of um rise or fall. I mean, there's just a lot of wide receivers I think that kind of clutter themselves into that end of the first that could end up on those teams that we're talking about. The kind of teams that are more juicier, that kind of um the kind of teams that you want, or kind of players you want on your fantasy team, I should say. So yeah, I mean, and I've been hearing, just reading a little bit on him, that he has met a couple times with the Bills. So I mean, maybe they have some interest in him. And again, with the vacancy that is left by Stephon Diggs, I would say, something good there, something good there. So any wide receiver that is going to go to that Bills offense, where is going to have value, I think, immediately for at least until we see the game, or them play at least.
No, that's fair. Yeah, personally, right? I feel like this is the guy that is gonna end up on the Niners or the Chiefs. I actually have someone else in mind of going to the Bills if that is who they're gonna take it. If nothing else crazy happens in the space of wide receiver trades and moves and whatever else, I have another guy in mind. Actually, the next person we're gonna talk about, that's the guy I think will actually end up on the Bills. I feel like this is the guy that will end up either on the Chiefs or the Niners if a wide receiver is taken. I think the issue is that I understand that there are some interesting developments going on with wide receiver camp in the Chiefs with some legal troubles. The very unfortunate situation that it is, but you at this point you're looking at it, and the chances that they draft a wide receiver in the first round for the Chiefs probably just went up because of that. I imagine you probably were feeling pretty good with Richie Rice before, and now maybe not so much. I don't really know. That's the development you're going to have to look at. It's an unfortunate situation, and it sucks to that extent, 100%. When looking at all that he did last season. However, going back to this is probably going to make them think we should maybe get another wide receiver just in case.
I mean, the just to talk about it quick, the Chiefs have done that in the past too. When Tyreek Hill had potential suspension things going on, they drafted Mecole Hardman because he was the closest to. For those of you not watching, I did air quotes because it's not close to Tyreek Hill, but that was a skill set they wanted, and they liked that part of the game, and they didn't want to lose it. Just in the event there was a prolonged suspension or anything. But yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I think can really go to any team, and his skill set will translate pretty well to the NFL. Like, he's a guy I would love to grab in the second round of rookie drafts, if I can, because we're going to talk about the running backs on another episode, but the running back class is not what it's been in the past. There's none of these guys that are a Bijan level or Jameer Gibbs and stuff like that. So you're going to have a lot of these wide receivers in the second round getting pushed up, or, I think he's a perfect target. If you don't want to give up a lot of draft capital, or don't want to give up a lot to get the draft capital, he ain't going to cost you that much as far as where the pick is. So I would love to target him. Moving on here, going to AD Mitchell out of Texas. 6'2", 205 pounds, 4.34, 40-yard dash, 700 yards, 9 touchdowns. These are where it gets concerning to me. 1.8 yards per route run, which is pretty low, especially for college. 17.1 targets per route run, the percentage. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Now, he's somewhat polarizing. He's a pretty efficient player for the most part from some of the tape I saw, but those stats don't lie. It's I wouldn't bank on him being a weekly upside play because he was just kind of okay. He he seemed more of like just a red zone guy, where if they got close and he's big and tall, throw it in the corner, those fades, and he can come down with it. But I think you alluded to it, Chris. Is this the guy that you liked a little bit better than Ladd?
The word liked is a weird word. This is what I think Buffalo is going to go for, because I feel like this is the type of guy that I think in their heads would work better with Josh Allen, in my opinion. Funny enough, this list from CBS I have a couple here. This list also has him going to there. I don't know if I would necessarily rank one over the other. I just feel like looking at the weight comparison itself. He is, sorry, I'm doing quick maths, 19 pounds heavier than Lad McConkey, and then an inch taller. That's not like too much, but you guys all, I mean, we have to always remember that you guys, they get into the league, right? And they are going to go through some insane regimen to probably, in some way, shape, or form, change their bodies, most likely in terms of like muscle mass and their diet and this, that, the other thing. Their whole lives are going to change, right? I feel like this is the guy that they're going to go to, in my opinion. I don't know why. I just have this feeling based off of Pro Day and the games that I've seen of him when I've looked at some of his highlights on YouTube, stuff like that. I just feel like this is where they're gonna go. That's a little shot in the dark that I have personally, but I just have that feeling.
How about you, Rich?
I like him. I definitely like AD Mitchell, as opposed to I think the other burners we were talking about. But overall, yeah, it's a player that I just need to see where he goes to really kind of feel it out. He's just real clustered into the rest of them, or just like I previously mentioned, that whole bunch of cluster at the end there. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, as you get a little bit later and stuff, I mean, we have to remember that the later you get in the draft, the hit rate plummets off a cliff. So a lot of these guys, you're gonna look back and be like, yeah, it didn't work out. No pick is safe. So as long as you recognize that, you can take these shots on these guys. Like, I don't think you're gonna have to spend a high draft capital to get him. So at that point, you're looking at some of the other positions, and he might be one of the guys that falls. But I know there has been some hype around him, and a lot of people kind of push him up the board a little bit. And although he showed flashes, I'm not really confident in that he's going to translate into the NFL from college ball, just based on the efficiency metrics and the production levels. It's touchdowns are really hard to come by, and if that's basically most of your game, you're more of a best ball type guy than a lot rostered player that you're confident in to plug in for a flex. He's more of a, we'll wait and see. If things change around him and he goes to a good situation, then he's a guy that I'll be okay with. But not really seeing it right now. Next guy here we got is Keon Coleman out of Florida State. Now, this is a guy who's extremely polarizing because I think it was the Senior Bowl. He kind of annoyed some of the coaches there. Didn't really put all his effort in. Kind of ran into the combine as well. 4.6 140. That's pretty slow, especially for a wide receiver. Basically, just over 50% catch rate in 2023. 640 yards, 11 touchdowns. So another one of these, touchdown guys. 1.82 yards per route run, 21% target per route run player. It's not a guy that I'm really looking at. I don't know if you guys feel differently about him, but he's
I do
athletic
feel a
with
little
some
different.
yak ability, but that's kind of it.
I do feel a little different. I mean, I think he has a good size and good frame. I mean, overall, he's more of what we've known as far as a prototypical big-bodied wide receiver. So from what I hear, he's good at tracking the ball. He can get himself in good position there with his size and kind of bully the cornerback or the DB. So I mean, I think if he goes to a spot where he doesn't necessarily need to be like the shining spot, but if he can complement someone, I think that with a 1-2 punch, he can definitely become a real problem in the NFL. So he's definitely somebody I'm looking to target in my rookie drafts, or at least as much as possible if I can.
Yeah, I think personally on my end, I mean we talk about what Matt had mentioned with the some of the perhaps problems off the field, maybe, perhaps, on how that's gonna play in that pro team league environment. And I'm looking at like the stats here. I think this is definitely like you're getting to the point where it's like if you get them at the good value, you're going to take them, right? Probably in your rookie drafts. Personally, I look at the stats, I look at the frame, I look at everything else, and I'm going to be honest with you. This if you told me after like 2 years that this guy switched to be a tight end, I would believe you. And was like an offensive tight end in a similar light of like Laporta maybe or Kittle or maybe not as prolific as Travis Kelce, but something to that extent. I might believe you. I'm not super high on him. I'm not a huge big fan. Personally, I don't. It, I could be completely wrong, and obviously, he's going to be one of those picks that's going to, and it's going to probably come up to some random choice based on where he actually gets selected at to which team. But I don't know. The speed needs to be worked on a little bit. Um, in my personal opinion, I don't know if he's going to be as influential with that yards after catch with that speed. We'll have to see how he can actually take hits in the big league against guys who have been here for a while, because that is a completely different element to what he has dealt with in college. I don't know if the yards after catch will be as prominent as it is, when he finally gets into the league and he's having to go against these guys who are frankly like some of the best athletes in the world. But yeah, that's my take.
Yep, makes sense. All right, so we got the last guy here, Roman Wilson out of Michigan. 5'11", 185 pounds, 4.39 40. All of Michigan didn't do too much through the passing game last season. It was a lot through the run game. They just basically ran the game out. So not prolific stats, but 55 targets, 648 yards, 11 touchdowns, just under 3 yards per route run, almost 25% targets per route run percentage. Sorry. So I don't know how much you can really take away from this Michigan team, but on tape he looked decent. He's a little bit smaller, but a little bit bigger for at that weight with that height. It's he's also not someone you're going to have to draft super high either. So it might be worth it because he showed he could be efficient. Anything you guys want to add on Roman Wilson? Do you think he's a worth it dart throw?
I think he is 100%. I actually think if you're taking the dart throw between Keon Coleman and Roman Wilson, you do Roman Wilson, because that Michigan team didn't do much with the passing game. I mean, he had 55 targets and 40 receptions. That's a fantastic stat. That's really good. Compared to a lot of the other people that we had here. Now, obviously, as as the ball gets thrown more, I'm sure that will get more, like the stat will get wider. But I feel like if you're doing the shot in the dark type of deal, this is the type of guy you want to take you want to hedge your bets on. At least in my opinion, that's how I would go about it. You're not going to pick up either Keon Coleman or Roman Wilson and expect them to immediately start for you. This is the type of guy you're going to take. Maybe he does really well. All of a sudden he explodes like week 4, week 5, and then he shines in a really awesome offense. We're talking about Richie Rice right now. Basically what happened to him. Didn't really get picked up anywhere. He was probably he probably got drafted in the later rounds in your rookie draft league. In your redraft league, he was definitely in your free agency, 100%. And if you're in a dynasty league that only goes 3 rounds, you most definitely did not draft Richie Rice. I think he was a 4th rounder in our league. I could be wrong, but I want to say that happened, or perhaps late 3rd. Someone can check on that for me if they'd like. But this is definitely the guy that I would throw my shot with personally.
Yeah, I'm checking right now to see where he went. Let's find out together on the show. No, he actually went pretty high. Well, he went to a Chiefs fan. He went at 207 in our league last year.
Well, I can't control that. Never mind. I'll go cry in the corner.
Just gonna block you out. Yeah, I mean it's once you get to this point of the draft and at any position really, wide receiver, it's hard to really differentiate some of these guys together. You're really just have a hunch on a guy, and that's where you just have to call your shot. If you like any of the other guys or some of the other guys that we haven't talked about, that's perfectly fine. I mean, it's dynasty. It's your team. Do what you want. We're only just trying to give how we feel about the player and where we kind of see where they can end up. Anything you want to add about Mr. Roman Wilson, Rich?
You guys pretty much nailed it. I mean, for me, it's another player that's kind of on the same cluster as the rest of that. Just kind of at the end of it at this point. So I'm more excited about other players than I am him. But personally, just me.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap things up for us for the wide receivers. I know there's a couple more. We'll probably end up doing like a sleeper show as we get close to the draft, or after the draft at this point, because it's rapidly approaching. We only have a few weeks. So I guess before we leave, when do you guys, well, just a quick question as far as Dynasty. When you're doing your rookie drafts, when do you prefer to do it? Because I know there's some people that are crazy and they do it like right after the NFL draft, like that weekend. They're out sending things out, but I know for personally our league, we do it usually like Memorial Day weekend. Just gives enough time, dust settles a little bit, but I don't like doing it too late because at that point you're getting up to redraft and my kind of mind switches over to that. So when is the ideal time in your opinion?
Couple weeks minimum. I mean, anything really end of May, June, around that time in the summer usually is fine with me.
I'm definitely going to be the sadist out of all of us. I'm definitely the August guy. Right before the season, I'm completely fine with that. I know, and I don't mind the way we do it at all. That's completely fine. I am completely okay with that.
Good, because we ain't changing it. I'm
Yeah.
a Smith. Iron Fist.
But yeah, no, I feel like in my head it'd be fun to like kind of like mash them all up because I got like I got my regular redraft leagues. We got a guillotine league between a couple of us here like that's really fun to draft with. I have a keeper league which is not really dynasty but like kind of like an eighth of it of a dynasty league. I mean, at least in how I'm doing it, it'd be nice to, have all the different type of drafts at once. I don't know. But I also don't mind doing it earlier, so it's one less draft I don't have to schedule around when the redraft season comes up and you're hurrying and rushing to get something done right before the season actually starts.
Exactly. That's why I like to do it when we do it, just because it keeps it's another event. You get to hang, talk and make fun of your friends and other league mates for the poor decisions they made during the draft and bad trades and stuff. It's just public ridicule. It's fun, especially when you
I
can talk
can't
to
wait
your
to use
friends.
my draft pick of 5.10.
Yeah, I got the 504. I'm ready. Let's go.
There
We
you
gotta
go.
find these dark horses. But all
Where's my
right, well,
Pupukus?
hey, I got Darnell Mooney a couple years back as the very last pick, so
Oh,
sometimes it works. So
okay. All
we've
right.
had a couple of them.
I have some hope. I have some hope.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
take anything else from that little short conversation we had, every pick has value.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes,
You heard it here
sir.
first.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's get out of here. We have a couple things, couple surprises we're working on here for y'all. Yeah, behind the scenes, we got a couple things moving around, setting things up. So stay tuned. We got a couple more episodes coming up before we shut down our talk of the 2024 rookies. Just kidding. They're going to be for a while because there's a lot to talk about. But stay tuned for our shows. Check us out on socials, and we will catch y'all on the next episode. So long, everyone.
Later.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Heroes FF.